Hi. I decided that in this last week, I would take a few minutes and do this additional podcasts to talk about your thesis project. I know it's a little in advance, but it will be upon you before you know it. And I think there's some points of orientation that might be useful to you. And these ideas have come to me from supervising previous theses. And so rather than you needing to kind of figure it all out for yourself when the time comes, I thought I would just give you a few hints, pointers of things that seem important to me. They may not seem so important to you, but they do to me. The first point I think that's important is that you really take some time and be honest with yourself about how deeply involved and invested you want to be in your own thesis work. No matter how much you decide you do or don't want to get invested, it is a major piece of work. It will take up a year or close to a year of your life. So it's a major investment. But beyond that, it's also there is some scope for allowing it and choosing for it to really take over your life and transform your life. And so the two kind of fundamental attitudes at extremes are one, that the thesis is part of an educational program that you need to complete in order to complete your master's degree, that you'll learn in the process, and that it will be part of getting your credential. And I think that that's a really valid approach. The other is that you've chosen this program not just to be a part of your life, but a truly transformative experience, that it is your life, that the MEEK program for this couple of years has essentially become your life. And particularly when you get focused on the thesis, that researching and writing the thesis is how you're living your life. It's not kind of a peripheral activity or a partial activity, but your life becomes revolving around it. That's what happened to me in my own dissertation work, that it wasn't that my dissertation work was apart from my life, but it was how my life was manifesting in that phase. So it's something that it's worth really thinking about where you want to go with this. Because what you don't want to do is get involved in something beyond what you're prepared to do and not finish it or have it drag out forever. So that's part of the thesis design process when you're choosing questions and approaches, that you don't have it so huge that it can't be done. And you'll work on that with your supervisor and with Liza to shape a thesis project that's actually doable within the time limits that are in place. And so the time constraints are definitely part of the consideration. The other thing involved in that is how traditional you intend or would like your thesis to be. It's really important to get clear that the MEEK program offers the option for non-traditional thesis writing. I've supervised theses that include poetry that are quite different from the typical just academic analysis. And so that's an option. I'm supervising one now that is going to end up being a website. You saw Sanji's documentary in last summer's residency, that the documentary was her thesis. Whatever you do, there needs to be a component of writing, but it doesn't need to be the predominant part of the thesis. So there's an enormous range of what you can do in this program. You can do activist research. You can certainly do work that involves inner transformation if you want to focus on the process of interchange and how that affects your life and affects your work in the world, and how maybe modeling that change in yourself can be important for others. So there's just any number of different ways you can proceed in this. So don't allow yourself to get trapped into the notion that your thesis has to be a 5-chapter traditional thesis, and set up this kind of straw man that this is what academics expects. That's not the way it has to be. If you decide you're doing a non-traditional thesis, you need to be sure that you discuss that before you sign on with the supervisor, to get somebody that's comfortable with that and can provide some guidance in that. And Liza, again, can help you with that process. So, or if you have any questions, you can ask me as well. After the second residency, take some time. You'll probably have your supervisor by then. You'll have an idea of what you want to do in your thesis. But I would strongly recommend that you take some time. I suggest a month. Different people suggest somewhat less. But you stop reading. Really just disengage from bringing in information from the outside and spend time staring at the wall. It's easy after each course to think, oh yeah, this is what I want to do my thesis on. So right now, many of you may be thinking, oh yeah, systems has to be central to my thesis. And it may be. It might be, systems thinking might be an integral part of what you eventually do. But I think it's important when all your coursework is done at the end of the second residency, is that you take some time and just allow everything you've been exposed to kind of settle into yourself and find its place within this constellation that is you. And so that you look deeply into your own experience, your own heart, your own passion, to design a research project that is meaningful to you on whatever level you do that, whether you decide to do a quantitative one, qualitative one of interviews others or exploring yourself or some aspect of the world, non-traditional, however you decide to do it, that you look within and you choose something that's going to be meaningful to you. Because if not, the whole process can get pretty tedious and like you just want to get done with it. And then that's, to my mind, quite an unfortunate way of proceeding in this. So take some time after the second residency and really feel your way through. In the second residency, I believe it's then, or it might be partly online, you'll be doing a course on writing in which you create a thesis proposal. And that is a hugely valuable exercise. But please don't assume that coming out of that course, you've basically got your thesis proposal in place. You won't. Or you may do, but you won't necessarily. So the way I suggest you approach it is that you take it as an exercise on how to think about a thesis proposal, how to write a traditional thesis proposal, and you may choose to write a non-traditional proposal as well. Because remember, if you write a really traditional proposal, that tends to start channeling you into writing a traditional thesis. So these are just things to think about, contemplate ahead of time, so you have some context for what's going to be happening in the coming months. I think I may have to turn this into 2 YouTube